Hey, Chicago. What do you say? Cubs gonna win today.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's time for the Cubs podcast with Praz and Oleg. Guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, Andy,
Terrific.
actually got to see Oleg on Monday night over at the Cubs game.
Yep.
It's always nice when you two can get together and
That's right.
bond.
Yeah.
Hug it
Got their
out.
shirts on.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't expect that either one of you is going to go see The Fall Guy. You know, it's a movie. It used to be a TV show.
Yeah. No.
Now it's a movie.
I didn't know that they made a movie out of it.
They did, and it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. What I alluded to this in a tweet. The very first music you hear is the intro to the music from our old Bears podcast. And you hear the intro, and I really wanted. I felt compelled to yell out at the end, "Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast."
It's I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss, right?
Yes, by Kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the old Norm Macdonald joke. The good news is Kiss is getting back together, and the bad news is they're still going to suck.
Not they're bad.
But it was there, and it was the very beginning of the movie. I was very excited about that.
That is exciting.
Anyway,
can we start with this with a prayer?
yes, I'd like to start press conferences for football stadiums and podcasts by asking God to deliver chicken wings or something. I don't know.
God save the Cubs, please.
Oh, gee.
Oh, they're doing fine. They're tied. They're still tied for first.
They're good. They're good. They're
Brewers
fine.
lost again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was nice.
All it has
Thank
to
you,
happen
Royals.
is everybody in the Central just needs to lose every day, and they do.
I do want to give you credit. You did make a good point. I think it was on Twitter. I think it was on Monday too. When I was sitting at the Cubs game, I saw it. It's not so much weird that the Cubs are good despite missing, Bellinger and Seiya and Steele for a while, but it's like they should be even better.
Yeah,
like it's not like they should be even better.
Yeah, with all those losses, if the bullpen was mediocre,
right,
they'd have 3 or 4 more wins.
Yeah.
It's just proof that they hired the right guy when they hired Ryan Flaherty to be the bench coach.
Wait a second.
Right.
I will say this: one of the games, like the Brewers game that they lost, they only scored 1 run. Like the offense has been a bit like I don't want to consistent versus inconsistent has always been a weird thing for me, but like they are up and down. Like they're
very much so.
They'll have games when like today.
They're great today.
Holy cow!
One damn hit only on a little roller that Jan Gomes hit that didn't even leave the infield.
But 2 or 3 walks, then they get 2 or 3 walks, maybe.
They did, yeah.
But it's Dylan Cease. You're supposed to get like 7.
Right.
Right.
That's the issue.
You're just supposed to strike out for all your outs, which that part they did well.
Does this mean the Padres won the Jose Quintana trade?
It's a good way to look at it. We'll see what Drew Thorpe looks like for one day for the Sox, but
is he Jim Thorpe's kid?
Maybe
Gil
grandkid.
Thorpe.
Is
Gil Thorpe an old
from Slapshot?
Wasn't Gil Thorpe like an old like
comic? Like a
like even long before we were kids.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's
like
the first
a
thing
high school football coach or something. Wasn't
that's the first thing that came. Yeah, I don't remember, but like in the Sunday funnies, right? Like that was that's what I thought. When you said it, I'm like, wait, is that what you're talking about? Huh. We're old.
Yeah, it was. It's still being published.
Holy cow.
It's been published since September 8th, 1958. The main character, Gil Thorpe, is the athletic director of Milford High School and coaches the football, basketball, and baseball teams. I don't know how many cheerleaders he's gotten pregnant, but it's a lot. It's almost 70 years. Speaking of the firecracker offense of the Cubs, they had to give their shortstop the day off because apparently his now has a sore knee.
Okay.
I'm talking about Dansby Swanson. For those people who don't know who the Cubs shortstop is, it is no longer Ryan Theriot, folks. If you haven't been paying attention. But it's funny. At the first thing when they said he had a sore knee, I got to think. You see these on Instagram a lot. Like someone will get hurt, and they'll have to limp around the house, and then then their dog will start to sympathy limp.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wondered if this is still left over from Mallory blowing out her knee. And
there you go.
Dansby really isn't hurt. He's just gotten so used to limping that they're like, "What's fucking wrong with Dansby? Like, do you need a day off? Why? Oh, never mind. You're limping around." It might not be sympathy pains. He's been not good.
No, he has not been good.
And it made me think, when was the last time he was good? I was trying to think, and I decided he was last good at the beginning of July last year, before he hurt his foot. And so there have been 101 games played. He has played 101 games since he came off the disabled list late that July. This is the $170 million Cubs shortstop. In those 101 games, he has 16 homers, 56 RBIs. He has struck out 111 times and 369 at bats. And his slash line is, hold on to your butts for how good this is.
Oh boy.
220, 305, 396.
Oh, that's only about 150 OPS better than Nick Madrigal.
701.
Yeah.
OPS.
That's only slightly
Madrigal's
better
about
than
550 or so. Like Dansby Swanson. Sorry, I bring everything back to Nick Madrigal.
Nick is, he had 2 hits the other night, so he's up to 560.
Oh, all right.
All right, Nick Madrigal.
He's on a heater.
Yeah, on Monday he
got his average up from 195 all the way to 222.
He actually hit the shit out of the ball on Monday night. He had that one, that liner to right field.
Yeah, that set up the bases loaded
he didn't
situation.
Score the run.
That's
exactly.
Right. I actually said that.
Hit it too hard.
Yeah.
Way to go, Nick. One time.
Yeah.
Ian Happ had a 44-mile-an-hour base hit in that game.
Yeah, Dansby hasn't been good. He's that strikeout rate is, holy cow, that's bad.
I was they needed to get a shortstop. And I felt like when they were shopping, then it was, of course, they're going to go Dansby. He's going to be the cheapest of the 4.
Yeah.
And my only real concern about Dansby was the Braves were locking up everybody.
Yes.
Right.
We have this great young core, and we're going to keep everybody together.
Yeah.
And but Dansby not so fast. Everybody step forward. You want to get your new contract. Dansby not so fast.
Yeah. And
they didn't have anybody. I guess they had Vaughn Grissom maybe at the time that they might have thought. But they were like, we're good. Good luck. Go get some.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, I think, is that they're so good everywhere else that it's not,
But then I was pleasantly surprised by him last year as to, like, when you only watch a guy, a few times a year and then in the playoffs, you don't really appreciate, like, everybody's always a good defensive shortstop. Sure. And if you look at his metrics, nothing jumps out.
Not yet.
In fact, like the one I looked at was like, does his arm suck? Because like mile per hour on throws was so bleh. But then you watch play and you realize one of the things I like about it, it's kind of one of the fun things to watch Dansby do is it's almost like he plays to amuse himself. He only throws the ball hard enough to beat the guy by one step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when he needs to, he actually does have a pretty good arm, but he doesn't use it a lot. And so defensively, he was supposed to be really good. I actually thought he was better. Like I appreciated him more than I did before. And then offensively, we had braced ourselves because typically in April, he was terrible with the Braves. Mm-hmm. Every year, always dug himself a huge hole. And then last year, he didn't. And he thought, look at this guy have a huge year. And he played well. He was an all-star. People remember that. And then he's been bad ever since. And it could simply be he had a bad foot last year, and he's got something wrong with him right now. or it could be that the Braves were right.
Well, I feel like he's never been like he was never a great hitter. If he was like 12% above average hitter, he'd be $250 million.
Yeah. Well, as Michael Cerami from Bleacher Nation told us, he's not supposed to hit. They're not paying him to hit.
Yeah, well, that's
It's like they're paying him to do everything. That's
Yeah.
what the paycheck is for. He's supposed to be like he's supposed to hit in the middle of your order,
yeah.
Correct.
and he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
He's batting in it. He's not really hitting in it. But he's batting in the middle of the order.
But it's also like he should on the Cubs, he should probably be hitting sixth or seventh. Like when Bellinger and Say are healthy, that moves everybody down a couple spots.
But they got a lot of guys that should be hitting seventh now. Like half the Hap.
Well, yeah.
Him and Hap can't bat at the same time. Although maybe they should try it.
Yeah. Stack one on top of the other. Or
Yeah.
maybe have Nick Madrigal on Ian Happ's shoulders. That would be
Dansby
great.
bats in the right-handed box. Hap bats in the left-handed box.
There you go.
The good thing, I can't even make this joke because Hap walks so much, but the good thing about Hap hitting third is at least it spreads out the automatic outs. But he really does have a really good eye.
So I guess my question for you guys is: Are you worried about Dansby Swanson and his 5.5 more seasons of lots of money playing shortstop for the Cubs?
Nah.
Before today, I would have said yes. To be determined. We'll say what he looks like when he gets back from this knee injury. But I mean,
so you're saying that today, finding out that he's dealing with an injury, now you
makes you optimistic.
That's what happened today. That you feel like, okay, now I understand. Is that what you're saying?
It's more so the fact that, like, one thing I think the Cubs have gotten much better in this season, and this is not exactly a great thing, but you've seen it in years past where guys will just like sit on the bench when they have little nagging injuries where they could have been on the injured list. They probably, could have just gone immediately, spent maybe a day or two more than what the injury really required of them. To me, if we are just now hearing about the injury with Dansby Swanson, with all the guys that had been on the injured list prior to today, you would think that if he had said something to the Cubs, that, that is what really would have been affecting him. So we'll see. I think maybe just time off to take a physical break would be good for him. Do we know for sure is he going on the injured list, or is it just a matter of like they're giving him the day off and combining it with the day off tomorrow and hoping that he's still available in Pittsburgh?
Well, he doesn't need an MRI. He's fine. Doesn't need an MRI. I'm just kidding. This is the Cubs trainers' approach to everything. That bone sticking out of his leg? No, that's normal. Counsel said after the game that they gave him today off because they have tomorrow off, and they thought that 2 days off would, they could get him back in and everything would be fine. So we'll see.
Much to the chagrin of what Boog has told us about him, because isn't that like a huge talking point for Boog that, like, Dansby always says to Counsel, I never want a day off, like, from a game combined with a day off the next day. I want to, like, never take more than a day off from playing.
He did say that, and then I would say to Dansby is, you don't manage the fucking team. So you play when I tell you to play, pretty boy. Hey, how about this? You don't have to wear your hat today, so your hair is going to look that much better after the game. True. Congratulations.
Well, hey, counterpoint to that, if he hadn't spoken up to Jed Hoyer last season, we wouldn't have had the July and August that was exciting as it was.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the things I appreciate about Dansby was basically him telling Jed, why do the Cubs ever rebuild?
Right.
Like, why do you need to do that? There, you have multiple ways to acquire players. You don't have to get bad for 3 years just to get good players. I also feel like that was like a cutesy story that the Cubs told. I don't think they were like, you know what, Dansby's right. We're not trading guys. They started winning games before the trade deadline, which is why they kept everybody. I don't know that it was Dansby banging his shoe on the table and convincing everybody. But I do like the fact that he says it, and he says it like publicly, because he's publicly shaming them out of, he's 100% right.
Yes.
Like, they don't have to do this. They choose to do it. They don't have to do it. And they do it because it's cheap.
Yes.
Yep.
They just take a couple of years off from paying guys. That's why they do it. They'll act like, oh, no, this is why. A guy we're going to talk about later, you end up with a really high draft pick, and you take a guy who's I think's turned out to be a really good pick for them, Cade Horton.
Yeah.
If you were picking 22nd, you still would have picked instead of picking 9th or whenever they got him.
Yeah.
So you can't even say they maximized the top 10 draft pick because the guy they identified was the guy that they had valued, and I think correctly so.
But you can't trade
higher
down.
than other teams did.
Yeah, but you can't trade down. So
No, you can't.
You're kind of stuck. I mean, if you don't take him 9th, then
right. But that's what I'm saying. In this quick
yeah,
reset,
I see what Andy's saying. Like
they got a high pick, and then they're like, we like this guy. And I don't think they were wrong.
Well, it also, to Dansby's point, they did trade for a former number 4 pick in a draft, and that's turned out great.
Nick Magical, Andy.
Yeah.
If we wanted to get to that, try to block him out.
Yeah, I can't help it. Every time I get on this podcast, that's all I want to talk about. That's not true.
But we talked about that number. That's the whole reason he's still in the big leagues. It's because
he was the number 4 pick. Yeah,
he gets extra chances because of that. For some,
but why would the Cubs? Why? They didn't pick him.
Maybe they just think he's cute. He's adorable. We can't send him down. He's like having a teddy bear on the team.
Yeah, I thought I remember
cheeks.
I do think I remember hearing that the guy the Cubs really wanted from the White Sox at that time was Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah,
I mean, pick your poison there because he's not really all that great anymore. But
how about this, guys? Maybe don't trade with the White Sox.
Right.
They don't have any good players.
Yeah. No, as they prove now.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. They got nothing. They got nothing on the big league roster. They got nothing in the minors. They got a whole lot of nothing.
Well, they beat the Cardinals up pretty good, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was nice of them.
The Cardinals are bad. We're going to get to them later.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know if people knew. I'm pretty sure people knew it at the time. Part of the reason, supposedly, they traded Craig Kimbrell to the White Sox when he was super valuable, and he really was. Yep. I mean, he was having an amazing year. And we know closers are worth a crap load at the deadline because they can impact so many games in the playoffs.
Yep.
Was that his daughter was sick and was in the hospital in Chicago, and this way he didn't have to. He didn't have to leave her. They didn't have to move her. That was part of Jed's motivation to trade with the White Sox. And I really do think they Cody Hoyer, Jed's illegitimate son, who spells his name differently, was supposed to be just as big a part of that trade as Madrigal, and then he caught the Tommy John and he's pitching for the Long Island Ducks or whatever.
But why didn't they was his rehab so bad that they just didn't bring him back?
I don't think he's ever going to be right.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm asking. I guess so.
Yeah,
he was supposed to. They thought he was going to come back and pitch last year, and then he kept having setbacks, and then they dropped him off the 40-man. Then nobody picked him up forever. Somebody's got him now.
Currently on the 60-day IL. Funny enough, in the Texas Rangers organization.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, probably not going to pitch there, but hey, if he's collecting a check, good for him.
Yeah, sure, why not? And it's on the Rangers, so. But yeah, I wish they would have done something more with this bullpen. It didn't really have to be guys. We weren't talking about the bullpen. We're talking about Cody Hoyer. Anyway.
So the return of Cody Bellinger has inched Ian Happ down the lineup.
Good.
And then hopefully the return of Seiya will inch him down even farther.
Yeah.
Hopefully out of it.
I think it's going to be out of it, but there's at least Magical sees a lot less time. He's got nowhere to go.
He is hitting 225, 346, 302. He is your Cubs left fielder, who you have signed for $20 million a year for the next 3 years, is slugging 302.
302. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And I was just going to say that he slugged 505 in 2020. He slugged 564 in 2019. Since then, he has slugged 434, 440, 431, and now 302.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I got news for the Cubs. He's never slugging 500 again.
Nope.
And you're paying him like he does. And he
Yep.
doesn't.
Yep.
And I didn't understand at the time why you just had to keep this guy.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time when Happ projected to have a lot of value because they were trying him at first. He was supposed to be a second baseman.
Yep.
And his numbers he was putting up at the time, if he could have stuck at second base, that's really valuable. Then they moved him to center, and you're like, okay, his bat would play in center. But the minute you kicked him to a corner outfield, especially left, because he's still, you know, his arm is super accurate. He also could throw the ball about 100 feet in the air.
Yeah, because they needed a cutoff man to gun down Pete Alonso at home plate.
Yes.
Right.
But I don't know. As Boog said, only about 30% of National League third basemen would have made that throw that Nick Madrigal made. He's only off by 70%, I think.
30% of the 16-inch softball third baseman in my league.
Nobody, and he wasn't even saying make the throw like that accurately. He said he didn't think anybody would throw it. Like they would have just caught the ball and not thrown it. It's like everybody would have because that was the game.
Right.
Like you make a throw, you win the game. It's Pete Alonso. You could hear him lumbering around third.
Well, that wasn't that much further than like a throw from behind third base to first.
The reason it worked with those two was it played into the fact that both of them have accurate but short arms.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a long throw from Happ to Madrigal, and it wasn't a long throw from Madrigal to Amaya. Yeah. That's the whole reason it worked.
Yep.
But it's just like that game in Milwaukee last year where the Happ threw the two guys out from basically third base.
Yeah.
And everybody, what a great arm. It's like, well, he is an accurate arm.
Yeah.
He does not have a strong arm at all.
It was like watching like when you go out golfing and you golf with like 80-year-old men and they like just sit there and hit 2 5-irons like off the like and they just go straight but 150 yards and boom, next thing you know they're shooting an 80.
Yep. Like, wow, this guy's always in the fairway.
The thing that frustrates me the most about Ian Happ, and I talked to a buddy about this a couple days ago, it's really not totally his fault, but the fact that, during the era after the World Series, when the Cubs were still a pretty decent team as a playoff contender, and, they were having their offensive woes in the games that really mattered the most, either down the stretch or in the playoffs, Ian Happ was every bit as part of that failure as Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez were, except where's the ring on his finger? And, how did he become more worthy of getting a contract extension than any of those guys? Now, obviously, you're happy with the fact that they didn't extend, Bryant and Baez to, this day, seeing what they're playing like. But it just makes you wonder, what did they see in him that they didn't see in those guys at the time?
That he was willing to take only a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Why did they give him? Why does he have a no trade clause?
Does he really?
Yes.
I mean, nobody would take him anyway.
No, that's
$20 million.
The $60 million is a no trade all by itself.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they gave it to him, it's like, what the fuck? I guess that was his reward for only taking the 3-year deal.
Yeah. Hey, only take 3 years.
We'll commit. You could spend all 3 years here. You don't have to worry about us shipping you off to somebody else. In 2018. When they had the good team that just stopped hitting at the end of the year, he hit 233, struck out 167 times in 387 at bats.
I remember that was the year
2019. He
that
spent the whole first half of the season in Iowa.
I remember that was the year in 2018. He had the lowest Z contact percentage, which is contact on pitches in the strike zone of any hitter with over 400 plate appearances.
Yeah.
So
any pitch near the letters, he swung at it always and never hit. And he's basically stopped doing that. The thing, one of the things that amused me in a bad way was last year when they were talking about all the adjustments he made and how he's sacrificing. Remember, he didn't have hardly any extra base hits in the first half. He was slugging it was not 302, but it was bad. And the defenders on Sahadev and then on Marquis would tell you, no, he's changed his approach. and he's getting more contact, but he wasn't making. But he was still striking out just as much. He struck out 153 times last year. He struck out 149 times the year before. So he struck out more times with the knee.
Yeah.
He just didn't hit for power. It's like, well, maybe scrap that approach then, and he did apparently in the second half. He said, "Well, I don't care if I strike out." It's like, well, he struck out just as much, and he did get a few more extra base hits. This year, he's on a pace. He's going to strike out. He's on a pace to strike out more than he ever has.
Yeah, he's always struck out. Like that hasn't changed. It's just him taking more walks, maybe not swinging. I don't know, whatever. I'm not defending him.
Yeah, the only thing he's doing right now is he's walking.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the best you can hope for when you're.
Yep.
He had that. I mean, I know why they hit him third. Half the lineup was gone. But still, when the best you can hope for when your third hitter come up is that he walks.
Right.
That's.
See,
I will say the 2015 draft. I just looked it up. Holy cow, is it bad?
Yes. Yeah. I want to say he's like the 6th highest WAR of anyone in that draft.
I believe it.
I want to say Andrew Benintendi was the pick right before him to the Red Sox.
Yeah, Carson Fulmer was right before him, which is kind of hilarious.
Carson Fulmer.
Yeah, to the White Sox.
Okay.
I mean, the White Sox could have had Ian Happ.
He'd been perfect. Well, they got Benintendi.
Yeah, that's right.
Guy.
That's right. If they would have had Ian Happ, they wouldn't have had to trade for Eloy Jimenez.
There you go. See, that's if only there were draft pick trades in baseball. Theo could have put that one over on. Was it Rick Hahn at the time, or was it still Kenny Williams? I don't know.
Do we know why you can't? I mean, now you could trade
like the supplemental or the
those you could trade. You can't trade
balance. Yeah,
I would venture to guess.
I want to hear your theory. I have a theory as to why they still don't have.
I could see it changing within the next few years, just because the draft has now gone down only. Is it only what 10 or 15 rounds? When it used to be 40?
In 2020 it was 5 for the COVID.
Thank God the Cubs stole Matt Mervis because of that.
Spencer Strider was a 5th round pick that year, right? No, I think it's back up to 20, maybe 30. It's not 30 anymore.
I think it's more than that. It used to be
unlimited, right?
You could pick until you stopped picking.
Yeah.
So, once you passed, you were done.
Yeah.
So, if the Cubs after 42 rounds were like, nah, but the Dodgers are going to keep picking until they get Mike Piazza in the 61st round. They might be the only team still picking.
Yes.
The Dodgers, you guys want another? We got another guy. All right, fine. Yeah. And it used to be a conference call.
Yep.
And here's the other thing about the Major League Baseball draft that always cracked me up. This is very baseball. For a long time, until more recent than you would think, the only people who knew what round they got drafted in were the first rounders.
Wow.
They would announce when the first round completed, they would announce the first round draft picks. And then they would wait till later in the day, and then they would have an alphabetical list of who each team picked in the draft.
Wow.
And the reason it was alphabetical was so the players wouldn't know what round they were in, so that they couldn't be like, well, I'm a 2nd round pick, I deserve this much money. They literally wouldn't tell them. They wouldn't put the rounds out for a month. So the players didn't know what round they got picked in.
That is so baseball.
And that happened.
So
that
fucking
was
baseball.
Recently, it was 20 years ago. They were still pulling that shit. I guarantee Mark Grace didn't know what round he went in until well, that could be for many reasons.
He was drunk.
True.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But I think the reason that was the reason that you couldn't draft picks before was the structure of the draft.
Yeah.
It's literally just a bunch of assholes yelling into their speaker, into their Charlie's Angels speaker thing. And there was no mechanism in place really to do it. I mean, obviously you could have just called around. It's not like the NFL and the NBA drafts where everybody was in the same place. Well, now it is. And now that it is, it seems like to liven up the draft, you should let them trade again. Right. Because the draft would actually be fun. Not only you could trade draft picks at the draft, you could trade guys on your 40-man for draft picks. The draft would be much more interesting than it is. Because right now, it's really only interesting for the weirdos who spend all their time, following college baseball, and then the creeps who hanging out at the high school fields for kids they don't know to watch them play.
I don't do that, but I do watch and follow the draft. fun.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I wasn't talking about you. I
I
watch
will see this.
I watch it too, but I'm like, mostly I'm there just to look at the ridiculous, like,
Yeah.
God, what the fuck is he wearing? Or, God, what is that? Who is this Pete Crow Armstrong? What is that on his head?
Or hear Harold Reynolds say some foolish thing like he
God.
could play in the big leagues right now.
Harold has never seen any of these guys play.
Right.
And then they ask him to compete, and then they do this thing where he compares them to, like, players, and he just compares them all to Ken Griffey Jr.
Yep.
Like
That reminds me a lot of the guy I used to play with.
Yeah.
Gary Carter? No, I'm not that old.
But that is like I did like in this past NFL draft, like watching it, it was disappointing that there weren't more trades in like the top 10. It's always fun to hear trades, like Commissioner goes, "There's been a trade." It's always kind of fun to hear that. But yeah, they should. But I think they don't do it because they're afraid. They're still afraid of like the Yankees just buying draft picks. Like the Yankees just, here's $30 million to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Give us your first pick.
Whatever they do, the Dodgers will be the team that figures it out first.
Yeah.
How to screw everybody else over.
For sure.
Them are the Braves.
Because it's just what they do.
Yeah.
It's, the Dodgers they have to be the most hated team in every other front office. Because, like the Cubs love to hide behind that we can't go over the luxury tax. Because if we do, the penalties are just so bad. And there's the Dodgers who went over the luxury tax for like 8 years in a row. They were paying the biggest penalties you possibly could. They had stars at every position, and they had like the second best farm system in baseball. And so apparently the penalties are so onerous that they don't affect the Dodgers at all because they're good at what they do. So maybe spend the fucking money, and then just if you spend it on your minor leaguers and your big leaguers, you'll probably be okay.
It was I forgot, somebody must have mentioned, maybe it was another podcast. Like the Cubs kind of got screwed because Theo's whole plan was to go out and spend all this money on the international players.
The timing was amazing. He gets hired in
2011
of 2011, right?
Yeah.
And it was the meetings, the general manager meetings that happened like right after the World Series, where the Cubs' plan was we're going to trade for guys who are in their walk year, and we'll get their comp picks for them. We're gonna blow out the international draft, and we are going to we're gonna spend so much on the draft. We're gonna draft guys in the rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are committed to colleges, and we're just gonna buy their ass out. So it's like 3 weeks after they get the job, all that's illegal.
Yep. Well, they got to sign George Soler, and then that was it.
Yeah, it was the last international.
Signing, whatever.
Before the rule change,
And then the next one was they got Glaber and Eloy.
Yeah.
They got that in the good old fashioned. Like they were just good at it.
Right.
And whatever.
But there was still like left over. Like I think they went into penalties for those two or something like that. But yeah, totally.
Actually, I think they did.
So they overspent, but they like had already committed the money to them. But now it's hilarious how like you have like 14-year-olds are still like it just looked the other way. You have 14-year-olds who are still committed to teams now from the Dominican.
Well, that's why the Braves had to fire that general manager.
Oh yeah, Frank Wren, right?
JP or whatever his name is.
The old Blue Jays guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, not him.
No, not JP Ricciardi.
Yeah, some other guy.
No, okay, I'm confusing it because their current GM is a former Blue Jays guy.
Yeah,
it's Anthopoulos.
Yeah, they were drafted. They were consulting Wander Franco on who to sign. Hey, does your girlfriend have any friends who play? Yeah, well, they're not old enough. Well, that's okay. We'll just look the other way.
Oh my God!
Don't you know how to like? You can. There's a reason they put an eraser on the end of that pencil. We could just fix that year on DOB. Two of those guys were Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies. No, I don't know. Not really. I don't think any of the guys I don't think any of them amounted to anything. But
one of them was this guy I remember this guy named Kevin Maitan, something like that, who was supposed to be like the best international prospect since like Miguel Cabrera. And that was one of them. And then he just signed. He got all this money. They let him keep the bonus. Then he signed with the Angels and just got fat and lazy, and that was it.
Now, I always enjoy the other end of that. I like the players who lie.
Oh yeah.
and are like 26 years old and claim they're 18, and they're just
Yeah.
crushing the ball. And everybody's like, "Oh, this guy's going to be amazing." Can you project what's this guy going to be like when he's 22?
Yeah.
Well, do you have film from 4 years ago? Because you could see it.
Yeah.
Oh man, seriously. There's a Law and Order episode about that. I'm not kidding. I'm
sure
not
there
kidding.
is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's a Law and Order episode about everything.
Yeah. Oh.
So I don't know what the hell. I mean, this is why Craig Counsell gets $8 million a year to figure out what he's supposed to do with Ian Happ, because he's got to play him every day, and he's got to find a place to bat him. I mean, I guess he could. You'd be like, well, he's getting on base, so you could at least lead him off. But I don't really want him getting more at bats than everybody else.
I don't. Nobody really talks about it, but sitting in Happ would solve your, like, you could keep PCA up, and you could keep Michael Busch at first. You still don't really have a DH, but when Seiya comes up and you sit Happ, Bellinger and left.
Let me ask you this: when Seiya does return, in my opinion, the three best hitting outfielders on the team would be Seiya Suzuki, Cody Bellinger, Mike Tauchman.
Yes.
Wouldn't that just be your starting outfield then?
I mean, if
Also probably your best defensive outfield.
Yeah, I mean, I've
no.
said on here, and I wasn't joking, that late in games, if you're gonna swap Madrigal for Morel, you should also be putting Tauchman in for Happ. Gold Gloves or not, he's a better outfielder than Ian Happ is.
Tauchman's hitting the ball right now. Like, it's hard to justify Tauchman not getting at bats, and he's definitely a better defensive outfielder than two-time Gold Glove winner.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly what they're going to do, is Cody's going to go back to center. Seiya's going to play right. Well, it'll be some combination of these guys are all going to play basically every day until Mike Tauchman,
stops.
He's done this before, and you ride it as long as you can, because he can get hot and he can play well for long stretches. He did it for the Yankees. He did it for the Giants. He's done it for the Cubs. And then at some point, he remembers he's Mike Tauchman, and then right back to not, being that great again. Cody's going to play every day. Seiya's going to play every day. Tauchman's going to play every day. Busch is going to play every day.
Right.
Sometimes, I feel like Tauchman DHing is a waste of time. Right.
Yeah.
If you're going to play him, he can spell one of the other, because he can play all three outfield spots. Play him in the outfield. Give that guy the half a day off. Have him, but sometimes Cody's going to play first, Tauchman's going to be in center, and Busch is going to DH. Sometimes Busch is going to play first, and Cody's going to be in center, and Tauchman's going to DH.
Sure.
Those guys are all going to play. Pete's going back to Iowa. I don't think there's any doubt. And I think at this right now, I think he probably should. It's very encouraging. He's played. This is what we thought. I mean, if he had done this in September, and there was a lot of reasons why he didn't do it. And part of it was he probably was a little. I mean, he got thrown into a pennant race, and he was a little.
Yeah.
Right.
He seems oblivious to everything in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, he's impossible not to like. He's just and
For
I like
sure.
the fact he's a weird looking dude. And
Right.
He just
He
embraces
is.
it. Like, he just makes himself look weird, and somehow it works.
I so wish he still had the blue hair from spring training. That was such a great look for him.
He's in this stint, you've seen like the skills that we knew were there, but we just didn't really see before. And at some point this season, hopefully, like, he's gonna go back to Iowa. He'll hit. Although it's funny, he wasn't hitting in Iowa. Everybody hits at Iowa. He wasn't hitting. He's hitting better for the Cubs than he was hitting for the Iowa Cubs. He'll go down. He'll hit. He'll have a decision to make later in the summer when it's like, all right, we need Pete on the team. He's ready. He got, if you could get him enough at bats now, you just keep him. But we just talked about, you got all those moving pieces. So he's going to go down, and that'll kind of clear that log jam up. The question I would ask is, if Ian Happ wasn't making $20 million a year and wasn't, the Marquis' favorite player, which is part of the reason why I just, everything they overhype him to the point it just grates on me all the time.
Right.
Also these guys' favorite player too.
Yes. Oh, Avi Schertz loves him. And these guys, that's for those of you listening at home. Everybody except for the three of us who can actually see Prez. He was holding up his Light the W obvious shirt. at the time. Hap would be in some kind of platoon with Talkman.
I don't know why
Like, you wouldn't play him at all against a lefty. You
Right.
just-
Right.
because he can't
Yeah.
hit them at all. You just wouldn't even have him in the lineup. Although I don't know, it wouldn't really help Talkman.
Yeah, I was going to
He can't
say,
face the lefty, but he's better at it than Hap is.
Ian Happ is a really good fourth outfielder. Gets on base, passable defense. Like, he's a good fourth outfielder.
if only
get
he
to
was
the
getting
point where
paid like
he's a-
one.
He's a sunk cost.
Right.
You don't have to put him out there every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing says you have to pay him $20 million a year. You don't have to play him every day.
That might even give him more time to be on marquee.
Well, think about if he was on the bench more. Think about how much time he gets spent staring into his helmet at the magic dots. That would probably get him out of his slump. You know what? Craig. All I need to do is for like the next
Week.
the next 10 days.
Right.
I just need to stare into this helmet.
Yeah,
When I come out of it's like my Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat. When I pull my head out of this helmet, I will be Barry Bonds.
He's reading out of the helmet the same way the guy who found the Mormon religion read it out of a hat.
Does
Joseph Smith.
maybe magic underwear for Ian Happ?
Yeah.
Yep.
Does Obvious Shirts make magic underwear? Now, I made a new shirt for the DeCipio store. I don't know if you
I
guys
did
saw it.
see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
going to say, you should run the DeCipio store.
It says left field sucks.
Yes.
Instead of left field sucks.
May have to wear that next time I'm out there.
Yeah, I can cut you a deal.
You know, people.
So Seiya today played 5 innings for the Iowa Cubs.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't actually see this.
And he was good. I mean, he had 2 hits and a walk.
2 for 2 with a walk and 2 runs scored.
And
Okay.
I would guess the plan is that he plays more tomorrow, and then maybe I would guess he's probably back Friday.
Or Saturday against Paul Skeens.
Yes. I would, I get why they send guys out on rehab things. It's to like work the kinks out.
Yeah.
But if I were Craig looking at my lineup card today, I would have said, I can see it just rehab here
Right.
because we need him. I'd rather, his replacement's going 0 for 4. Say I might go 1 for 4.
Yeah. And like, I get why pitchers have to do it, but to your point, like 4 at-bats is, I guess you want to maximize whatever you can get, but generally speaking, what are you gonna rehab against AAA pitchers? Like
I was going to say, yeah, the
5 miles an hour slow.
Yeah.
right. The quality of the pitchers he's facing isn't really going to do
Yeah.
anything.
I think the only way you do it, it made sense to me then that they were like, okay, we know that he's ready to play a full, like, we wanted to play half the game, and then we're going to see if his oblique has fallen off again. And then tomorrow he's going to play a full game, and then we'll see if his oblique has fallen off. And if his oblique hasn't fallen off, he's going to be up. I do know from the guys I used to, when I was with the Snappers, the guys I would talk to, was that like the Brewers used to send guys out on rehab assignments for 2 reasons. Number 1, to get the guys some at-bats, but also to sell some tickets at the affiliates.
That would make sense. Okay.
And there was a famous story about Jeff Jenkins rehabbing in Beloit.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
And he only had to play like the first 5 innings, and then after the game, they were trying to find him because some of the local media wanted to. And he was literally under the bleachers with a woman he had met between him leaving the game and the end of the game. And I'm sure he told her he was Brett Favre.
Yeah. Yep. His exact.
I went to the Stanford game. I made out with Brett Favre.
Wow.
The affiliates will fight over like if a prominent like Seiya, like every one of the Cub affiliates would have wanted Seiya's rehab start.
I bet,
We're
yeah.
gonna sell a few extra tickets to come see Seiya. I remember as a kid, we went to see Damon Berryhill in a rehab
the
game
old catcher.
for the Rockford Cubbies.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
yes, it was greatness.
Was Rick Wilkins his backup?
Rockford.
Wilkins was probably. In Rockford maybe. Yeah.
one of the great moments in Rockford minor league history, they do not have an affiliated thing, was the first team ever they had were the Rockford Expos.
Oh.
And their hotshot player that first year was Delino DeShields.
Oh.
Oh, very nice.
And somewhere I've never been able to find the clip. I should call. I know people at the TV station. I wonder if they still have it. So there was then I guess they were the NBC affiliate. Now they're the ABC affiliate. They switched. There was a sports guy named Kim Lepak, and he was interviewing Delino on the field, like during warm-ups, and for a piece he was going to run that night. And it was during batting practice, and Kim guy hit a ball, and Kim had 3 balls. Line drive right to the nuts while he was interviewing Delino DeShields. It is one of the great sports bloopers of all time.
Oh, man.
But football to the balls has football to the balls.
Kim played basketball at one of the UWs, like lacrosse maybe, or
Whitewater?
Yeah, one of them. And he was we would play with him at the Rockford Y, and he was an amazing shooter. He was like the Oscar Schmidt of Rockford YMCA basketball. He was I'm sure he still is, he was a very hairy man. And there were guys always there who would be like, he'd be like, when he was playing, we'd split into shirt and skins, and invariably everybody'd be yelling at Kim, "You got to take that thing off, man. We can't tell what team you're on. Take your sweater off." Fuck you. They did it every time, and it was never not hilarious. All right, so I have a question for you guys. I posed it right before we started, so you couldn't give it too much thought. But now I don't want to harp on Nick Madrigal, but
yes, you do.
His mere existence annoys me. I know I've talked about this on a previous pod, and we just kind of did it in passing. So I want you 2 experts to tell me. Nick is currently hitting .222 for the Cubs. And it's clearly not worth having him on the big league roster, given that he's slugging .289. What would he need to hit to justify being on a big league roster, given that he doesn't walk, so his on-base average is hit dependent, and he doesn't slug? And if Dansby's hurt for any amount of time, he's going to be playing some second base, which I don't think anybody wants to see, and he's supposedly to fill in at third. But just what would Nick have to hit for you to be like, yeah, it's worth having him? And then after you guys think about this, I've got a guy that I feel like he has to play as well as to be worth a roster spot in the big leagues.
He would have to hit at least as good, which is a very loose term, as Juan Pierre in 2003.
Okay.
2003, okay.
So what was that?
About 300, an empty 300.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to slug like he's not going to slug. And even then, like, he'd still be like Juan Pierre sucked. Like it was.
Juan Pierre that year, 305, 361, 373 is 734 OPS and 94 OPS plus for him.
I'm a little surprised that his on base was that high. So
hold on. Side note here: a 94 OPS plus, and he wound up getting MVP votes enough to finish 10th in NL MVP voting.
And I will guarantee you, he led the National League in outs because he did almost every year.
Right.
Nobody made more outs than Juan Pierre because he played every day.
Yeah.
And so he batted more. He batted more than any other player in the National League.
Yep.
And he didn't get on base, so he just made a shitload of outs.
Yeah, it's that empty. Like I said, it's that empty single slap hitting, and even then, like Juan Pierre sucked. Like I said, like he sucked.
It's like how when we were kids, if you got one of those chocolate bunnies for Easter, I'm sure you got a lot of Easter candy, but those things that was a big chunk of chocolate, and now you get one and it's hollow.
Right?
Didn't they? They didn't used to be hollow.
No, you used to could buy them, and that would be just a big thing of chocolate, and you could stomach ache by the time you finish the ears.
I always remember them being hollow. I guess it was.
I'm sure there were always hollow ones, but you could get solid ones. And now I don't think there's any way you could get a solid one. They're all Nick Madrigal now.
I think that's
They're all
anti-Semitic.
Nick Madrigal.
A Hollow Easter Bunny. That's his new nickname. He's not Nicky Two Strikes. He's Nicky Hollow Easter Bunny.
There you go.
Chocolate Easter Bunny.
I'm looking at his career stats right now. Like the years with the White Sox actually had a pretty high average those 2 years he was there, in very limited time.
The player the Cubs traded for, although there was a big red flashing light when he did it, he hasn't been anywhere close to that.
No,
right.
He's been awful for them.
Truly has been.
Like it was all about like just a contact hitter, superior. He still doesn't strike out, but he doesn't walk. And like I said, when he does hit it hard, it's to make sure that the runner from second can't score.
Yep. Yeah.
He never hits it the correct hardness amount or correct exit velocity. To answer the question, I think with him, to make it justifiable to have him on the roster, he has to hit no less than like 280. Assuming like his career, walk rate and slugging percentage stays as
I wouldn't
meager as it is.
Yeah, not at 280. His on base percentage would be like 305.
Yeah, I think he has to hit 320 to be a big league player.
Yeah,
and I think the guy he needs to play, if he can't play as well as this guy, he has to be Luis Ariz. Is who he has to be.
Yeah.
That's a guy who somehow makes all batting average and nothing else palatable. But Luis Ariz is still not that valuable. Like, I know Padres gave up a bunch for him, but it's like his best defensive position is first base.
Yeah.
You can't play that bad at first base.
Yeah.
So they're DHing him. That's insane.
Yeah, that
DH Luis Ariz.
DHing a singles hitter. Imagine, if that was available for Tony Gwynn back in the day, they weren't going to DH him.
I bet Ariz. I know he doesn't have any power, but I bet, Tony Gwynn, those guys still hit doubles. I bet Ariz hits
That's true.
doubles.
So here you go. I have the comparison of Nick Madrigal and Luis Ariz. They are the same age. They are 27 years.
Why do you have it on note cards?
Oh, it's on a.
Oh, okay.
On Baseball Reference.
Okay.
It's a reporter's notebook.
Oh, cool. All right.
They're both 27 years old. Luis Ariz career batting average 324.
Yeah.
Nick Madrigal 277.
Sure.
Dropping like a rock. This year Ariz 307.
Yeah.
And he's at 307. It's a coin flip whether or not you really want to put him in the lineup.
Yeah.
Nick Madrigal this year 222. Career homers. Luis Ariz, they both have 0 this year. Big shock.
Yep.
Luis Ariz has 6 times as many home runs as Nick Madrigal. He has 24.
Yep.
Nick has 4. On base percentage. Ariz is actually higher than I thought it was going to be. 378 career on base. It's 354 this year, which is kind of it's borderline for him. Nick Madrigal career on base average 325, 271 this year. Slugging Ariz for his career 423, and it's only 379 this year. Nick Madrigal career 351, 289 this year. Stolen bases, Nick's got it. Nick has 17 career stolen bases in 23 attempts. He's 1 for 1 this year. Ariz doesn't have a stolen base this year. He's 11 for 21 in his career. It's barely a 50% success rate. Now, he stopped running. But OPS plus for his career, Ariz 122, Madrigal 86. Ariz is 110 this year, Madrigal 60. WAR career, Ariz 15.4, Nick is 3.4. This year, Ariz 0.4, and Nick is minus 0.1.
Yeah.
And the WRC plus for their career is 123 for Ariz, 89 for Madrigal.
Yeah.
113 this year for Ariz, and 63 for Little Nicky.
Yeah, that's because Ariz walks about 4 percentage points higher than Madrigal. And like I said, he also hits doubles. Like Ariz, he's hit 30 doubles in a season a couple times.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the Madrigal on a rate will come anywhere near that.
No, career high for Madrigal was last year with 16.
Yeah, but
games.
The plate appearances don't quite match up, so you can't look at the raw numbers. But I can't imagine Madrigal ever having a year where he hits 30 doubles.
No chance.
Ariz was playing second base for the Marlins this year, and it's only been a month. his outs above average, he is in the first percentile,
Oof.
and -7
Wow.
in a month. -7.
In a month.
Like you can
Guys,
fall down and make
literally
more
would be
plays.
better off not playing, just letting balls roll through over there. I think that would be like a -5. It's like Norman Dale. They're like, you guys going to play a second baseman, and Skip Schumacher's like, my team is on the field. You don't have anybody at second. We don't need it. Trust us. It doesn't get better if we put this guy there. Luis is like, you talking about me?
Yeah, I know. You might be onto something. Like I said, I think it's got to be even more than that, just because Madrigal won't walk nearly as much.
He's actually
Rise doesn't walk.
Right,
either,
Rise is a better all-around player, all-around hitter.
Yeah,
Nick
all-around
can
hitter.
hope
Yes.
to be.
like it would have to be a Rise plus 10% on the batting average. Like I don't think 350 does it. To your
So
point,
basically, what this long convoluted argument is, Nick can't do it.
no,
He can't play well enough to be worth a big league roster spot.
no.
We would have seen it by now. I mean, Praz alluded to it. His career numbers with the White Sox, he only played 83 games for them.
In 2 years,
He came up late the first season, and then he got hurt. Oh, shocker, he got hurt. Here's another tip for Jed. Don't trade for guys on the 60-day injured list. Just don't. It's like when Grant Hill signed with the Magic,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was in a cast. Don't sign a guy to a 10-year contract who was wearing a cast
Yeah,
to the
right.
signing. Just don't do it.
Didn't he sign like a 5-year deal and he only played about 100 games with the Magic? I
But
remember
little
hearing
Nicky with the White Sox, 317, 358, 406. So he has a 109 OPS plus. With the Cubs, 254, 306, 319. That's a 73. And it's going. So his batting average went from 340 to 305 to 249. But rebound all the way to 263 last year. Now it's 222. His on-base average has dropped every year. He got a little bit of a bump. He went from 305 to 311 last year. So bad. And his slugging is heading the wrong way quickly. Everything is trending badly. But he's in his prime. He's 27.
I bet
This
it's
is,
getting shorter
this
too.
is as good as he ever gets
He's
right
getting
now.
shorter.
Everything's
He's settling.
shorter.
He's
Yeah.
5'6" now instead of 5'8".
That's where you got your extra half inch.
Yeah, I borrowed it from Nick.
Yeah.
All right.
Wasn't
Here's,
it? Was
here's
it?
a fun fact I saw today. I don't know how fun it is. Alzolai's ERA is down to 4.70.
I last night on the other podcast I do, one thing we like to do is do like hidden stats for two different players and which one you would pick between the two. Adbert Alzolai, I chose to do with Adbert Alzolai and Josh Hader for this season.
That's not fair.
Josh Hader's ERA is a full run higher than where Adbert was at going into last night. Obviously, I don't really trust Adbert at this point to go back into the closer role, but you know, as someone who can come into games and preserve a slight deficit, as he's been used in recent games, don't mind it.
He threw 1 1/3 innings of one hit ball today.
Yep.
Hader gave up more runs in April this year than he gave up last year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
There's something wrong with him.
Yeah, you've seen his tweets. Oh, you mean physically, not just the homophobia. Well, that brings us, that segues us nicely to who should be closing for the Cubs. Hector Neris has been doing it, and it's been successful, but it's
roller
13
coaster
walks
ride.
in 12 innings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who, if he had a history of this, like, he pitches around walks, you wouldn't like it, but you deal with it. But Hector, one of Hector's biggest strengths his whole career has been he doesn't walk anybody. He doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't walk anybody. And so this is like way out of whack for him. He's throwing like his just strike percentage is way down. His walk rate is way up. And that's not good.
No. I mean, I think eventually I wouldn't mind seeing Ben Brown do it. But beyond that, I like your argument today.
I
Right,
actually
so
didn't get a chance to read it, but
well, and I wasn't arguing for this guy to be the closer, but I was arguing, and so it kind of had to do with the news that the Pirates are going to unleash Paul Skeens on the Cubs.
Mhm.
Looks like Saturday now, not Friday.
Yep.
Because originally the report was he was going to pitch on Friday. And the similarity that Skeens and Cade Horton, the Cubs' #1 pick from 2 years ago, have is the way they're being used in the minor leagues.
Yes.
And it makes sense for Horton. It doesn't make sense for Skeens. So, Skeens was the Friday night pitcher for LSU, and he pitched 8 or 9 innings all the time. He routinely pitched 110, 120 pitches,
Mhm.
and he's just kind of built for it, right? Like any pitcher can get hurt. The Pirates get him, and I know why they did it. They sent him to the minors, and they wouldn't let him pitch more than 4 innings in any game. And I think what they're doing is they're like, he's only going to pitch X amount of innings this year. We want to pitch most of those for us.
right.
But the question would be, why the fuck is he in the minors anyway?
Correct.
He's clearly ready, and he didn't. He embarrassed minor league.
Oh God, yeah.
They didn't come close to hitting
Yeah.
him.
Yep.
And really, all you were doing was the guy who was who's trained to pitch 110 pitches is now throwing 58.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's going to come up, and you're not going to ramp him. They're going to use him like this in the big leagues. He's going to pitch 5 innings probably, and that's going to be about it. The Cubs are doing the same thing with Horton, and with Horton it makes sense because where Skeens was a workhorse and pitched a lot, Horton didn't pitch that much at Oklahoma.
Right.
He was a freaking third-string quarterback for a while before he became a pitcher. When he became a pitcher, he wasn't any good. And then all of a sudden it was literally the College World Series when he figured out his breaking pitch, and they're like, holy shit, this guy's good.
Yeah.
And to give the Cubs credit, they saw it in a small sample and went, no, this guy's a really good arm, and now he's got an out pitch. We're going to get him. So they're still building him up. But my whole thinking is if you're going to limit the pitches that he throws, which is fine, why are we wasting him in Des Moines? Just put him in your bullpen.
Yep.
And you can
Makes a lot
limit.
of
You want to limit
sense.
to 100 innings this year. He pitches. He's already thrown 20. He throws 80 innings out of your bullpen. And you can give him extra days. You can do all kinds of stuff. He's in the bullpen. You don't have to. You don't have to pitch him. And this idea that you got to train a guy to be a starter. And I went back. I remember Carlos Zambrano broke in as a relief. Actually, pitchers used to break in all the time.
Yeah.
As relievers. That's how they
Adam
did it.
Wainwright with the
It was all the
Cardinals.
time, but yeah, enough.
Well, like back in the good old days, like in the 70s, that was like a really common thing. And bullpens were completely different.
Yeah.
They were like guys who weren't good enough to start, or young guys who were trying to figure out if they were any good.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, you made the point. Chris Sale started.
Chris Sale, I think it's probably the best example.
Yeah.
The White Sox long-term plan for him was to be a starter.
Yeah.
But he's got the weird body, and it always looks like his elbow is going to break in half. And they eased him in as a really good reliever. And then the minute that they made him a starter, he went for the first 7 years as a starter. He finished in the top 5 in Cy Young voting in the American League with either the White or the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And they tried doing the same thing with Garrett Crochet, right? He was a reliever last year, and now he's starting this year. Somebody else just thought of it, and I lost it. Maybe it was the other way. Oh, with Michael Kopech, they kind of did that, but they moved him back to the bullpen.
Well, Michael Kopech is just not good, though.
Yeah,
right.
He's back.
Well, then Don Cooper had to shoot off his mouth about how it was Kopech broke up with his girlfriend and he was all screwed up, and it's like,
right.
Yeah, no, he's just he's telling all of Kopech's personal shit on Mully and Haw. Like, Don, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm sure they care about that. Whoa, Chief.
But that's just my thought. Like, you clearly need bullpen arms. That's a really good one. You're going to limit how many pitches he throws this year anyway, and how many innings, and that's fine. And then if the idea is, what if he gets hurt trying to hurry up and warm up? It's like,
Well, no, you could still space it out. Like to your point, you don't have to use him as a closer where you warm up, but you could still put him on a routine.
Yes.
Throw 3 innings every 4 days, or even every 5 days.
Yeah. Well, and then God knows it's not like you don't have enough pitchers on this team that you're taking out after 75 pitches anyway.
Right.
You can plan it all ahead.
Right.
Like if Jordan Wicks comes back from his sore little elbow, he's not going more than 5 innings.
Right.
So Cade can start warming up in the 4th inning for Jordan. He can be completely warmed up before he has to come in.
Mm-hmm.
That is a little bit more probably planning than you're comfortable with, right? Because you are playing for something. In AAA, it's kind of easier to do that because, well, who cares? Well, sort of, who cares? But if you're in the middle of a pennant race, it's sort of tough to be that regimented with your bullpen. You have to give guys rest and stuff like that, but you have to be pretty flexible, especially with having only 13 pitchers. I know that that's still a lot, but
right. But I would think you could. What I'm saying is, I guess you break him in as a reliever.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
you could plan it out, and then at some point, it's not that hard to get warmed up. I mean, there's a lot of dumb pitchers who figured out how to do it.
Yeah,
Justin Grimm, one of the dumbest people in the world. He knew how to warm up. He would get ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Still, my favorite Justin Grimm story was the fact that, as you know, when Jake got the final out of his no hitter in Dodger Stadium, and they came running in out of the bullpen, and Grimm is jumping up and down like the rest of them, had no idea why they were so excited. He didn't know Jake threw a no hitter. He just thought he threw a shutout, and he's like, "Why is there? This is great, but why are we this excited for a shutout?
We shut out the Dodgers, yeah."
Like, he threw a no hitter. He did. Jesus Christ!
Oh man!
Why didn't anybody tell me?
I like that idea. Yeah, Cade Horton right now. I mean, you might as well get as much as you can out of him from this year. And would the innings limit apply to just what he would do in the major leagues, or I mean, would that just be at all levels?
They have a plan right now for how many innings they want him to throw. Yeah. He's 20 because he only goes 4 innings to start. He's made 5 starts.
Right.
So I would guess he threw 88 last year. I would guess they're trying to get him somewhere between 100 and 120.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would factor in, I think big league innings are probably more stressful than AAA innings.
Sure.
So maybe you cut that to 100. You could get 80 innings out of him. Lord knows you need it. Your bullpen, I think, should get better by the fact that Ben Brown's there now full time, at least until somebody else gets hurt. And I would guess Hayden is going there. But that would depend on whether that's only if Wicks comes back, right?
Right.
Otherwise, Hayden's got to stay in the rotation.
Yeah.
You think there's a possibility that Wicks
Hendricks is coming back?
You think there's a possibility that Wicks would go to the bullpen just because they're so light on lefties?
I don't know.
I don't know that he cares. He's got Mark Leiter.
That's right.
Maybe.
I don't think
He's gonna get Drew Smiley back.
Yeah, gonna get Smiley. Forgot about him
from his hip impingement, whatever that is. One of the things I liked, I looked up. Was looking at the guys, their ERA against their FIP, and everybody was like, Shota is obviously overperforming his FIP,
right,
and Javier Assad is overperforming his FIP. But guess who's really underperforming it? Kyle Hendricks is 12. He's only supposed to be 7.73. Well, that's a lot of bad luck. Actually, though, Kyle, it's all bad.
Yeah,
right.
when your FIP is 7.5, you're still
now. Alex Cohen, the charismatic AAA radio guy for Iowa, with a huge news today. Kyle struck out the side for Iowa today, and in the first inning. I don't know what he did after that, but. Because striking out the side in the Pacific Coast League I guess we decided last week.
International. Yeah. I like, as blasphemous it is to say, like, if Kyle isn't earning his starter spot, like, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Like if you're at the end of the day, this is a good team.
Yeah. Right.
They're not perfect, but they're a good team, and you're the starting pitching is really, really good, and that's a high standard now.
Now, maybe I'm projecting what I think he would do as to what he would do, but I have a feeling when Kyle comes back from this, I get the feeling he's going to tell them. Like if he comes back and he doesn't pitch well, I feel like instead of them having to go to Kyle and be like, we got to have the talk, I feel like Kyle goes to them and they have the talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't do it.
Yeah.
It would make sense. He's always been a very stand-up guy. I do remember, the last few years when, especially last year when it wasn't exactly a certainty that the Cubs were going to be buyers at the deadline. He seemed to be fine with whatever his fate was, if he was going to get traded last year. So I could very much see Kyle Hendricks being proactive in that sense.
Now, if I were Kyle and I had a 12 ERA, you'd have to you'd have to like take all the shit out of my locker and set it on fire and kick me out. I'm sticking around. I don't care. Screw you. You want me out of here? You got to kick my ass out of here. I just get the feeling, I don't know. We act like we don't know any of these guys.
No,
I think we do, and we don't.
but he seems cool.
Yeah, it seems like he's a guy who will know before they do. You know, like I don't have. It's honestly, last year was kind of a miracle.
It truly
that he was that good. I mean, when you go to when you go to a surgeon, and the surgeon tells you, I'm not going to operate because there's really nothing I can fix. Surgeon, those fuckers will cut anything open. They don't care. That's what they do. They think they can fix everything. And his surgeon was like, I think you're probably better off just, rehab it and see what happens. They didn't operate on him because they didn't know what to do. And then he had a 3.74 ERA for the Cubs last year. And it could be that was it. He threw his last good pitch last year. I don't know. I certainly hope he didn't. He's not. What is he? He's like 33. He's not even old.
No, but
he's not. But at this stage of his career, ain't getting a whole lot better, and the margin for error is less so than
Yeah,
was
there's always a
in his
misnomer
career.
that a guy like Kyle, who doesn't throw hard, that should age better because he's getting guys out. But actually, that you have such a fine line between your fastball and your changeup that it doesn't take very much. If those two get too close together, you don't have a changeup anymore. You just have two slow fastballs.
Well, I mean, Andy, come on. I mean, we just saw it with the Padres. Robert Suarez, their closer, he throws 98, 99, 100 on his fastball. He throws his changeup at 94. The hitter should be able to time that up, right?
Yeah. The only small difference there is that both of those pitches are also taking a hard right or left-hand turn about halfway to the plate.
Right.
And you're having to cheat to get to the 100, and if all of a sudden it's the 94 with a little wrinkle in it, you've completely fucked. Whereas with, Kyle, if you're sitting on 88 and he throws 86, somebody's fishing that out of the bleachers.
I will say this, if you, not to get off topic too much, but if you get a chance, MLB.com has a really cool article on Shota's 92-mile-an-hour four-seamer. Read it. It's really fun. It's good.
Well, see, that was my solution to left field I came up with last night.
Play Shota out there?
Just play Shota in left on the days he doesn't pitch. Yes. I think he could do it. We've never seen him bat. Who cares?
If Travis
I guarantee he could slug 302.
Yeah, if Travis Wood could do it.
Yeah. And he'd be a whole lot more fun.
I was going to say, to be a hell of a guy out in left field compared to what Ian Happ is. Ian Happ was out there today, doesn't even do the thing where, reacting with how many outs there are in the inning. At least show some kind of life, man.
What is the over-under? If Shota played, if they played Shota for a game in left field, what's the over-under on number of pitches? Remember when Bobby Valentine went nuts because Starlin wasn't looking at the batter for 2 pitches in a row?
Okay.
What's the over-under on Shota facing the wrong way when pitches are thrown because he's fucking around with the bleacher fans? It's 40.
Yeah.
He's he'd be more pitches with his back to the batter than actually looking at the hitter.
Like chatting,
right.
Do you think he'd be talking to the bleacher bums?
How about this? Would they have his translator in the outfield with him so that he could talk back to the fans? Now, you guys were at the game. Well, you were at the game Monday night last night. So I don't know if either caught you last night. Taylor was telling you'll be amazed with this. Taylor McRae was telling this long, boring story, and she got interrupted by baseball. They had to cut away from her so they could show some game. And then she literally said, I want to finish telling my story. Okay, so they go back to her. And for some reason, she gave a very detailed explanation about how talking to a translator works. Because she's like, so I was talking to Shota. Well, actually, I was talking to, I forget, what's the name of his translator? It's
something Barry, I want to say.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not a...
Anyway, she's like, I would ask a question to him, and then he would ask it to Shota, and then Shota would talk to him, and then I would say, yes, we know how a fucking translator works. There's a baseball game going on, Taylor. Maybe cut to the chase. We don't need the mechanics of how this works. It's like, good Lord. And of course, none of the stories are ever interesting. Even when you finally weather it all the way to the end, you're like, there's no payoff. It's like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
Edwin Stanberry is the guy's
I
name.
knew it started with an E. But yeah,
speaking of chat sitters,
Edwin would talk to Shota, and Shota would talk to Edwin, and Edwin would talk to Taylor. It's like, yeah, we know how, we've seen it. We know how it works.
Ipe is what? Ipe pleading guilty all over the place.
He had to plead guilty to what was it? Wire fraud and having the worst haircut in California.
Can't believe the guy's going to do 30 years in jail. I don't know if he's going to do 30, but holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess $60 million.
Just think about how much Shohei could put on his commissary account, though. He'll be living like a king in prison.
It'll be like that scene in Goodfellas
where he's very thinly slicing.
Yeah, the garlic and the
oh man,
making the meatballs and the sausage.
So last thing I want to talk about was former Cub Wilson Contreras suffered one of the weirdest baseball injuries I've ever seen.
Yes.
And it turns out, you'd be surprised, that the reason that he got hurt is because the Cardinals are fucking morons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all got exposed to it by all of a sudden on Twitter there was this clip of him. You heard that he got hit with a JD Martinez hit him with a backswing and broke his arm. And you hear Chip announcing, it turns out I thought it was Jim Evans, but it was Brad Thompson was talking about it. They kept calling it a backswing. And the way the clip started, it was all the reaction of Wilson. It's like him holding his arm and jumping up and down and rolling around in the grass. And when they finally showed it, he didn't get hit on the backswing.
It was on the
swing.
The swing.
The swing, yeah.
I can't imagine that's ever happened where a batter has actually, usually catcher's interference, it's just, you just barely tick the tip of the glove.
Right.
This thing was like 18 inches away from that. It literally just smashed him right in the forearm, just below his wrist. And it turns out it was because the Cardinals felt like Wilson wasn't stealing enough low strikes for the pitching staff, so they had him move way up. So he's way too close to home plate, which is why JD could hit him in the freaking arm and broke his forearm, and he's out for at least 6 weeks. And Dr. David Chow, the Twitter doctor to the stars, the former disgraced San Diego Chargers trainer, said that basically the kind of fracture that it is, he'll be lucky to be back in. He said they should put. He said eventually put him on this. They will come to the realization they should put him on the 60-day IL because it's going to take at least full months, and it's going to be longer than that before Wilson's actually back. All because the Cardinals are like, you're not Yachty enough. Yachty would have got that strike. So you got to move to the plate so that a guy can, so that a 6'4" major leaguer can hit you in mid swing right on your forearm. They are just fucking worst. Which is, it's very enjoyable. Actually,
enjoyable, absolutely.
I feel bad for Wilson. I do not feel bad for the Cardinals for anything.
I'd rather not. I would have rather it not happen to Wilson.
I mean, how about this as a method for solving your pitch framing problems? Play someone else there and DH Wilson.
Or how about this? How about why do your pitchers need to have like the low strike stolen for them?
Maybe also correct.
Pitches.
Did the next hitter on the Mets wound up getting taking one of the ribs or something like that, like Ian Happ had to do last year after?
Some Cardinal fan immediately replied to that with, "I would hope the next guy gets one in the ribs."
Right.
Like, for what? Because you're telling your catcher to line up too close to the fucking pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Just contract the team.
That'd be nice.
Baseball would be just fine without the Cardinals in it.
So they are, they can't score any runs.
Yep.
They can't really pitch, but they
other than Sonny Gray, yeah.
Yes, Sonny Gray. So they signed 3 free agent pitchers. Sonny Gray, a great signing, and then Lance Lynn and Cal Gibson. Everybody knew at the time was a waste of time and money, and they both been bad because they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh God.
Is hitting 195.
Yep.
287, 263. Oof. His OPS. Didn't we just decide it's Nick Madrigal 10 points more?
Wow!
Than Paul
All right.
So there you go. Trade Nick Madrigal to the Cardinals to play first base. That's an upgrade.
You just that would make me so happy. Like if somehow he played one game, one inning, first base for the Cardinals.
Nolan Arenado, do you know what he's slugging for the
I
Cardinals?
just had his
360.
Oh, higher
No,
than
he hit
that.
a home run the other day. He hit a home run the other day.
390.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember this last year at the trade deadline. You know, they were in last place. They finished in last place. I got news for them. They're gonna finish in last place again. There was some talk at the time. Arenado got off to a slow start, was playing relatively well by the break.
Mhm.
Goldschmidt, who'd been the MVP the year before, was not having as good a season, but was still Paul Goldschmidt. He was still a good player. And it was funny. I remember thinking this was going to happen when the Cubs decided not to trade Cody. I thought there were very few. Like the Cubs got Jamer. I would like to call him Heimer
Right.
because of Jesse Jackson. Chicago's Heimertown, and Jamer was like the best bat traded, and he was just Jamer. He's not.
Yeah.
He was fine.
He's fine.
And the Cardinals could have cashed in and traded Goldschmidt to one place and Arenado to another, and accelerated this rebuild that they clearly need to do. But they wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't do it for the most Cardinal reason ever. They want both of those guys to retire as Cardinals.
Oh my fucking god!
Because they want to have, and at first I thought this was funny. We're like Katie Ronnie Woo's daughter, who covers them for the Athletic, and it's another Cardinal writer. We're like, no, this is the way this team thinks. Like they want them to retire as Cardinals. They're going to give them the little red jacket, and they're going to drive them around in the convertible and wave. And it's like, you could trade them, and you could bring them back. And
exactly.
But they wouldn't trade either one of them. And now Goldschmidt has no value. Arenado has a lot less value than he did.
Yeah.
And they've got this, bad team. The other thing that's great about the Cardinals' problems right now are they're almost all they made them all themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like clearly their manager, Ali Marmol, is completely overmatched. And it's pretty clear, like the electric Mike Schilt, everybody's, just such a great personality. But he clashed with the front office about a lot of shit, and they ended up firing him after they went to the playoffs. And you can look at it now, and you can kind of see the shit that Mike Schilt was like, no, we're not doing that. Because they fucked up all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it's to do with Wilson, which is really weird. Last year, just before they got to Chicago, they made the announcement, Wilson's not a catcher anymore.
Yeah.
And then the next day, he's like, well, he's going to be a catcher, but we're going to give him a couple of weeks off from catching. We undo all the Cub stuff, and we teach him how to catch the Cardinal way and all that shit. Now they've got him, like, breaking his arm by doing whatever.
Yeah.
But they also, just 3 years ago, they supposedly had this glut of outfield talent. They've got all these guys, and they don't know what to do with them. And the old Cardinals, we saw it a million times, would have taken those guys and traded them for pitchers and gotten good ones. Well, they ended up like Adolis Garcia left for nothing. They traded Randy Arozarena, and they got Matthew Libator, who the Rays are like, well, he throws 95 miles an hour, but it's perfectly straight, and everybody hits the shit out of it, and that's happened. They should have traded Tyler O'Neill, and they didn't do it. They hung on to him. They finally traded the Red Sox for nothing, and now he's like second in the American League in home runs. Yeah. When they got Arenado, it blocked two guys at third base. They had Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker, and now they had to find positions for both of them, and neither can play anything else. And Walker, because he's such a terrible outfielder, he gets in his head, and he can't hit in the big leagues, and then he gets sent to Memphis, and he'll hit 480, and then he'll come back to the big leagues, and he'll hit 222 again. They fucked all this shit themselves, and their pitching fell apart. Like, everybody kept telling them to turn Jordan Hicks into a starter because he had and they wouldn't do it. Trade him to the Blue Jays. He's a giant now, and he's really amazing. It's all this stuff that they never would have fucked up before, and they're fucking it all up at the same time. And it's just the greatest thing ever.
It is. It's fun. Here's the crazy thing about what you said. I just looked it up. I can't believe Goldschmidt's been there that long. Arenado was only this is his fourth year in St. Louis. Like, what? Who cares if you retire? Like, what?
No, it's stupid.
Exactly.
It's not like you won a World Series.
Yeah.
It feeds into their, for this, we're the most successful National League franchise, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
They're the most insecure organization ever. And a lot of it is projected on the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
Like, their whole personality as a franchise forever was, Chicago's this big city up there, and we win all the World Series, and they never win a World Series. They never did anything. Well, over the last few years, the Cubs are just clearly better than the Cardinals now, and they've lost that.
Yeah.
But this is the weird kind of shit that comes out. Is this like, oh no, we got to save these guys so they can be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame crap?
I feel like it's the kind of shit that the Packers do, but they don't really do even that.
Imagine, if you will, like if the Cubs utility tunnel of fame was a thing when the Ricketts first bought them. This seems like something that like they would have found a way to operate on. Like they would have made every effort they could to like re-sign a Ramos Ramirez after like 2011, just to like have him be a Cub till he retires and go in with the blue jacket, and Derek Lee and Ryan Dempster and Kerry Wood.
All right. Well, I was with you up until the Ryan Dempster thing.
He's in the Hall of Fame though. He's in the freaking Cubs Hall of Fame.
Is he?
Sadly, I thought we went over that because like isn't the strength of him being in there on like
I don't think he's
the only guy with like 50 wins and 50 saves.
Well, they brag about that all the time. I don't think he's in it because he wouldn't have been around. This is the second iteration of the Hall of Fame. So there's like a whole bunch of guys that were already in it who they just made new laminated plaques for them. They're not paying for real ones. It's like a Denny's menu taped to the wall. But since then, guys of his era have had to be inducted. So I don't think Ryan Dempster is in the Cubs Hall of Fame. At some point they're going to put him in, and they're going to do they're going to make him they're going to do like the totality of. He was a starter. He was a reliever. He worked for Marquee. He did games. He did, it's like
for Marquee.
Mr. Cub bullshit.
He's so beloved. He's going to
because based on the success with the Cubs alone, they have kind of a weird low bar for that thing anyway. He doesn't meet it. Like they can't objectively go, yeah, he's good enough to be in there. They'll do this whole thing about he's in as much as an announcer as he is a pitcher and all that bullshit.
Yeah, they're going to put him in 3 times, once as a starter, once as a reliever, and once as an announcer.
Well, hopefully he keeps the Harry Carey glasses at home that day.
Now, Ryan Dempster is in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Him and Fergie, I think, are the only two in it.
Larry
Walker, maybe, yeah.
Yes, that's right. He does not appear to be he's not in the Utility Tunnel of Fame.
Now, is the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for players who were born in Canada, like Joey Votto, or like also players who played in Canada, like Steve Rogers? And
I believe you have to be a Canadian. I don't think it's like Expos and Blue Jays get in too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be fun if Joe Carter was in there. It'd be fun if Joe Carter was in the Cubs one.
I like Rick Sutcliffe
Dempster's been in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame since 2019.
Oh, well.
Wow.
Long time.
Yeah. Well, good for him.
Let's see who we've got here in the Canadian Hall of Fame real quick.
I know.
Well,
Tip O'Neill is like
Russell Martin.
Martin.
Wait, I think you might be right. Russell Martin is Canadian, but I don't think Jesse Barfield is Canadian.
Yeah.
He's in it.
Is Steve Rogers in it? Is Charlie Lee in there?
Well, yeah, you know what? You absolutely are right, Oleg, because I'm looking right now. Like, Roberto Alomar is in it. Felipe Alou is in it.
You're right.
So a lot of great, like, Expos and Blue Jays are in there, too.
Famous Canadian Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
Lloyd Mosey.
How long did Pedro pitch for the Expos? They only had to be a few years, right? Like, maybe it was longer.
Well, that's why he's in, because of his Expos years.
Right. No, of course. He's in because of his Red Sox career.
Yeah.
No, of course. But, like...
you're saying he didn't pitch there that long. How did he pitch there long enough to be in the Hall of Fame? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, on a technicality, even though he's having a worse career than his dad, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is more deserving of being in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame than his dad was, just by the fact that he was born there.
Oh, because he's actually Canadian. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because he was born there when Vlad was playing on the Expos.
Yeah.
George Bell's in it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He didn't own a gas station in Canada.
Is Warren Cromartie in it?
Ooh, Jackie Robinson is in it.
Oh, yeah, he was a Montreal Dodger.
Right? Montreal, yep. That's right.
Yeah. And he had to play there a long fucking time. Because he had to wait until they would actually let him play in the big leagues.
My company is based in, I think I mentioned this before, my company is based in Toronto.
Hawk's in it. Of course he is.
Yeah, and so we've got we've got a Montreal office, and I was talking to this guy, like one of the sales reps, just we were chatting. I don't know him very well, but he was talking about how his grandfather talked about seeing Jackie Robinson play
Montreal. Nice.
Yeah,
Joe Carter is in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
hell yeah, he is.
See, okay, this pisses me off. Frickin' Tony Kubek is in it just for being a broadcaster of the Blue Jays.
Okay,
and
Is
he's
Buck
from
Martinez in it?
yeah, I was
he's
going to say it's
from
Buck Martinez.
Milwaukee.
Or Dan Shulman.
Buck Martinez.
Wait, is Dan Shulman the announcer up there?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's actually a really good.
he's
That's
he's
a really
pretty
good team.
Yeah,
Him and Buck is good.
It is.
yeah.
Buck was not such a good manager, but
Ew.
I don't see Buck. Buck's not in here. They gonna have to correct this. This is
Neither,
ridiculous.
neither is Dan Shulman at this point.
Maybe they don't have announcers, but they just had announcers. Dave Van
Yeah.
Horn in there. He was their longtime announcer before they moved to.
Is
they had an elaborate
is
grade
Malpe in?
where they were the Nationals, but they were really the Marlins.
Right.
Some of them, like the front office people, including the announcers. You remember that? So they had to orchestrate this whole thing because John Henry didn't want to own. So he owned the Expos, but he wanted to own the Red Sox. So they were going to move the Expos to Washington, and then they were going to. They were going to set up the deal so Henry would end up with the Red Sox. And then they ended up like the front office people ended up going to the Marlins to work for that shit ass down there.
Jeffrey Loria.
Yeah, and then the players went to Washington to become the Nationals. Yeah.
That's more complicated than the whole.
That was you get the used car salesman.
Yeah,
he's out
well,
there.
it's more complicated than the Arizona Wranglers Chicago Blitz.
I was going to say, isn't there another football one with like didn't Bob Irsay trade franchises with someone to get the Colts?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know that either. I thought he just.
I remember hearing about that.
Now the great story about when and Huey and I talked about it on the thing was
stories.
George Allen, former Bear defensive coordinator and all around prick, was the head coach and maybe the general manager of the Blitz. Yeah. And then they did that franchise transfer where they became the Wranglers and the Wranglers moved. Yep. And so the Wranglers, when they're packing their stuff up to move to Chicago, they're like, okay, well, they're going to need this and they're going to need this. We'll leave this for them. They get to Chicago and there is nothing. George Allen packed up. Like he packed up the footballs, but he packed up they took the whiteboards off the wall. They took all the pens. They took everything. They walked in literally just empty offices where the Wranglers had left all that shit for them, thinking we're just moving staff and equipment. They're going to need this stuff. And George was like, fuck them, this is ours. And then he wouldn't give them theirs.
Why did they do that in the first place?
It was the owner, right?
I don't know. The Blitz were good, right? Like they were good. Like this was 82, maybe 83. Yeah. Like the Blitz were good and the Wranglers were terrible. And I'm like, I was a kid. I'm like, why did they do this?
It's because like all Chicagoans do when they want to retire, they move to Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
Let's see. I probably don't want to. There's a whole article here on NBC Sports Chicago. Let's see what the lead is.
About an article about the
trade, about the franchise trade.
Oh, okay. I could Google it.
But anyway, so if you ever want, there's a great Jeff Pearlman wrote a book called "Football for a Buck," because famously, when the USFL went out of business, they sued the NFL and they won, but their damages were $1.
Yep.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
But there's a great letter that Pearlman publishes in there. So the guy who fucked up the USFL was Donald Trump.
Yep. Yes.
They were a spring league, and they were actually doing pretty good ratings on ABC. And they had basically promised each other, they had a gentleman's agreement, that they would each team would have like one high-priced player, and they would try to keep salary because there wasn't a lot of money coming in. And then Trump buys the Generals, and he wants them to move to the fall, and he goes and gets Flutie and Herschel Walker and all those guys, and he fucks everything up. And Carling Bassett's dad, the tennis player Carling Bassett, owned the Tampa Bay Bandits. And he wrote a letter to Trump, and Pearlman publishes it in its entirety. And if you read it through the lens of Trump's presidency, it's the same fucking thing. Everything he criticized Trump for and basically just called him an asshole in this letter is all stuff that the country had to go through.
Oh man.
But it's a really entertaining book. That's the story. That's where you find the story about George Allen packing up all the shit and all the other stuff.
All right.
That league was the league was insane. So
I gotta rewatch the 30 for 30 on it. That's a good one.
Well, Tom Thayer played a full season for the Blitz and then played a full season for it was when they were still in the spring.
Yeah.
He plays a full season for them, signs with the Bears, and then so he's played like 18 games for the Blitz, and then played, I don't know what year that was. It might have been the year that they went to the NFC Championship game, lost to the Niners.
84.
So he would have played 18 more. He played 36 football games in 9 months or whatever it was.
How was he able to stay upright?
Well, I mean, I think working with Joniak has been just as damaging to his brain pan as
He's
getting
got to
hit.
take the same amount of pain pills.
Right.
All right. Well, what do you expect me listening to the Cub podcast? We talk a little Chicago Blitz.
The USFL is fun. That's fun to talk about.
All right. Well, thanks.
How do we even get on the topic of the USFL? It was about George Allen taking everything with him.
It was about the trade. How the hell did the Expos end up in?
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Holy cow! That started with the Canadian Hall of Fame.
Get down a rabbit hole.
Dumpster.
This is why remember this craps go 3 hours long, because this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Many of us have herpes.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.